Welcome to Cyber Focus from the McCrary Institute, where we explore the people and ideas shaping and defending our digital world. I'm your host, Frank Cilluffo, and this week we get to go on location. We're actually here today in Birmingham at the School of Fine Arts to talk about another school, a school that's focused, a magnet school focused on cyber and engineering. I have two of the leaders who not only pushed to get this through, but are also making sure it can live up to all it can be. And joining me today is Senator Arthur Orr, who has been a state senator in Alabama since 2006. He's spearheaded a number of major initiatives around education, this being, I think, a jewel that we'll talk more about in a little bit. Prior to that, he served in the Peace Corps and taught in Nepal. He has built over 1,000 homes in Bangladesh, and he is a true shining light for the state of Alabama. Also joining Senator Orr is Matt Massey, who is the president of the Alabama School for Cyber Technology and Engineering. Prior to that, he was the superintendent in Madison County and is, I think, rocking and rolling and doing great things for the school. So, gentlemen, thank you both for joining me today.
Thank you.
Good to be here. Yeah.
So I thought we'd start with the start, in the beginning. Senator Orr, you helped shepherd this and galvanized and marshaled this through the Senate in 2018. And I'd like to, what was the driving thought behind all that?
Well, you know, as I reflect on how we began all this, it really starts with the word jealousy. And the reason I say that is that in Alabama, at the time, we had two statewide, I'll call them magnet type schools, and one for fine arts and another for math and science. The fine arts was located in Birmingham. The math and science was located in Mobile. And at the time, I thought, well, we need something similar up in North Alabama. And what better area or niche to occupy or to claim, but engineering, because Huntsville has a plethora of engineers in that area. And then also my thinking at the time was computer science, because that's verbiage I was familiar with. And so I began the process of looking to develop a third statewide magnet school there in Huntsville, and came to find out after I kind of started those efforts that there was a group in Huntsville called Cyber Huntsville, which was looking to work with the city schools in Huntsville to have a cyber-based institution there in the city school system. And we linked up, and the name, instead of School of Computer Science and Engineering, became Cyber Technology and Engineering. And
good marketing.
Yes, well, and certainly helped as far as our ability to capture an emerging area of the cyber world. And so we joined forces. Then we got the legislation drafted to start the school. As you said, Frank, it started in the legislation passed in 2018. But that's the genesis in a short nutshell. A lot of meetings and work and things like that along the way. But the state of Alabama was very receptive to the concept. The legislation was not not a whole lot of conflict to get it passed. But then came the funding, and serving as the appropriations chair, certainly wanted to help the school that we had
resources
started.
Rhetoric, right?
That's right. Yeah. But the first smart thing we did was, who's going to be your leader? And that person is to my left, and I know you want to talk to him of how he got to where he is.
Yeah, which is great, because at the end of the day, there was a lot of risk. This was a very cool initiative, and we love to talk about it when there's successes, but and in this case, I think it's a massive success. But it also fulfills a real need for the state. So this is about not only delivering education, but dare I say there's a national security lens here.
You took the words out of my mouth. I was going to say, you said a need of the state, and I was going to say the country. When you look at the global landscape, as you know very well, and others much better than I, we have got to get young people trained and conversant in the cyber world to be able to defend and protect our country from all the cyber threats that we see increasing on, I hate to sound like the sky is falling, but on a daily basis. It is a real warfare out there.
As we're talking now.
Exactly. And we have got to capture these young people that are interested in this area, and hopefully a good many of them will be compelled to get in the game, so to speak, Absolutely. And help our national security, and by joining different firms, the government or whomever, to take on the fight.
And we know the workforce deficit is massive. And if we're talking about the pacing threat we're dealing with, the People's Republic of China and the Communist Party of China, we don't win that numbers game. We got to ensure that we are always more innovative, more advanced from a technology and an educational standpoint, and can fill those numbers. So I think there is a national security issue here, and I hope some of our DC audience is going to say, "Hey, this is a great idea. We need 50 of these." But Matt, so day one, you were the first employee of the Alabama School for Cyber Technology and Engineering, and for transparency, I must note, I am a trustee. I'm a huge proponent of what the school is doing. But tell me what you thought it was like day one.
Yeah, absolutely, Frank. And see you as a stakeholder and a promoter, as all of our trustees that serve. And I served as superintendent of quite a large school system, Alabama-wise. There's 19,000 students in Madison County, 28 schools. And I was 5 years in, and things were going really well. But it was the opportunity that this presented and all there was basically the legislation and the board. Mm-hmm. And so just seeing the need, the national need, and I've lived in Alabama my whole life, and think we have really smart people here, and we're problem solvers. Mm-hmm. And I saw this as a way for Alabama to kind of play its part in what would be a national solution.
Not only play its part, dare I say lead.
And to lead. And I think that's where we are now. Is, you talked about 50 of these, but there's other states that are making efforts to do cyber education, but nobody has struck the chord in doing it like what we've been able to accomplish. And that's a credit to our board and given the support and freedom, and to be able to hire smart people and create something that really works.
Let's talk the curriculum and the academic model itself, which I think is unique. I mean, rigorous standards by anyone's standard in terms of graduation. And what I think is really important is more the experiential learning, hands-on learning by doing, and if I'm not mistaken, you need to have an internship to graduate. That's so right. All good to have theory, but you got to put it into practice. And when you're talking about cyber in particular, that's essential.
Yeah, and it's the knowledge that learning just doesn't take place inside the classroom, but it's also the philosophy that all kids can learn. And our job as educators to ensure they learn at high levels. We embed that in our mission statement. We actually have the toughest graduation requirements of any school in the nation. All of our students have to take calculus. They have to take physics with calculus.
Yeah.
And if you start as a freshman and on that 4-year pathway, you're doing that in the first 3 years. And that 4th year, you're doing an internship. You're going to work with one of our 70 partners Monday through Thursday. And then on Fridays, you're working on your capstone project. And you've got to build something in a team. We match with mentors from industry on that. And then you present it to a group. And then here next week, we're going to have kind of a poster day, and you present it in front of the whole school. And other students that are younger get to see what these seniors have built and accomplished, and kind of interview them. But it is setting a high standard, ensure that learning takes place, because we get, our average ACT score is 30. We have National Merit Scholars, and at about 10% of our students end up being National Merit Scholars. But we're also pulling kids out of underserved areas of Alabama. We've got foster kids coming in and being successful, and we have a really high retention rate. 98% of our students come back year to year, and that's atypical of boarding schools and STEM magnets. Typically, it's a third of those students don't come back year to year at STEM at high intent schools. And so we wanted to create an environment, have high expectations, The cyber part of the curriculum, we started out kind of what I would say is the national trend, and that was aligning to certifications.
Mm-hmm.
But honestly, that's dreadful in front of 9th and 10th graders.
Yep.
And at the end of the day,
it's like doing accounting in 9th grade, right?
Yeah. They're not really learning anything. They might memorize some slides, and they know something. So we kind of shifted in and assembled some staff, and we wanted cyber education to be very hands-on.
Mm-hmm.
And also is we embed that cyber concepts in all of our classes into social studies. We do the history of cryptography. It's how we teach American history. And we work with the National Cryptologic Museum. So we have these national partners that develop these hands-on learning experiences. We'll get an Enigma machine in the classroom. Mm-hmm. And our kids kind of get to play with that. The museum will send us, and we'll send it back. And so it's really cool. And I would say kids interact with social studies in a way that, they would not normally do in a normal, typical high school.
And, there are a couple of national initiatives, one out of the Department of Energy, which is cyber-informed engineering, another out of the Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Security Agency, Security by Design. In a way, you're doing that because truth is, as technology changes, human nature, by and large, stays consistent. So you've got to figure out how you marry those up. And I mean, Senator Orr, in a way, it's sort of what you did in the Peace Corps as well, in terms of practice and building homes, actually not talking about these ideas, but doing it. What are your thoughts in terms of 2 graduating classes now?
2 graduating classes.
What are your thoughts? You've had an opportunity to meet with some of these students.
We, just for your viewers, listeners, it is a boarding school. So you have all the issues that go with boarding high schoolers. It's not
high schoolers, period.
It's not a commuter school, but we pull children from all across the state. But we don't want to just be a good school in Alabama. We want to be certainly a national leader and perhaps even international leader of renown. And as the word gets out, we've seen the student applications. I'm sure Mr. Massey has some up-to-date data, but statistics, But we've seen that skyrocket in the last couple of years. But one of the things we've done with the school is given them the mission also to take the curriculum across the state and work with educators in other areas of the state and students in other areas of the state where we can at least give them an exposure to what we're doing in Huntsville. And I think that's been thus far pretty fruitful. Mr. Massey can discuss that more, but we don't want just a building full of very knowledgeable and smart kids when it comes to the cyber and engineering world. We want to export that across the state and elevate our state in the process, and not just have them come to Huntsville.
Yeah, not to get sort of wonky on that, but I mean, cyber is its own discipline. In a military sense, its own domain, but it transcends all other domains.
It does.
Land, sea, space, it's all kind of converging, and we like to put things in our little boxes, or DC likes to look through the boxes and org charts of the agencies rather than the way the real world is. I think this is an opportunity to actually shape it, right?
It is, and that's with our partners that, we have partners Northrop Grumman, Raytheon, Deloitte, and kind of typical partners. But it's also important to have those financial, the financial piece of it. So
without it doesn't run. Right?
We have Redstone Federal Credit Union is one of our biggest partners, and we're working in that industry, the healthcare industry. So it's everybody. It touches everybody, and that's what we want to give our kids, kind of that breadth of that. And I would say is, if we have developed curriculum and courses, but it is a constant thing of, everybody just kind of tendency is to silo themselves. And so we have to make this, and that's why it's so important to have that as part of our mission, is to integrate that across. And we have those conversations. It was yesterday in school when we're talking with our engineering teachers and our cyber. Okay, this is what we're doing. How can we even do this better? A very growth mindset, that what we take here, because in industry, you've got to have that growth mindset because there's new threats coming in.
And the real problems they're dealing with.
That's right.
These aren't classroom alone. These are actual issues.
And because there's going to be an issue to come up next week that has never been an issue before. You got to be able to be aware and be resilient and to attack those issues.
One thing that when I joined up at Auburn, I love the land grant mission, and it's that underserved community that you're also bringing into the fold, not at the expense of, to make everything better, stronger. I'm going to ask a general question. What does success look like, Matt?
Yeah, for us,
I'm going to ask you too, Senator.
For us, success is taking. It's important to start with freshmen. There's a lot of boarding and STEM magnet schools that start in the 10th or 11th grade. Is to start earlier and give them a wide breadth of education, but then also to that capstone project where they create and present, and they're showing and they're explaining and they're answering questions, and some of them are pretty pinpointed, and then they're going to work, and when a third of our folks, or a third of our graduates last year, the companies are hiring them back after their internship, either during the summer or while they're in college. So, I mean, that, there's this model now of kids going to college and working at the same time, because we were kind of like, all right, we'll have some that will go to college, some will go straight to work. And we're like, wait a minute, we've got this. And so we have to actually help these students. What we didn't anticipate is negotiate a contract. Like, how many hours are you going to work in the summer or when you're in school? We've had students to change their college of choice from the University of Texas and Southern Cal and
to Auburn
to come to Auburn, Alabama, and other universities that are in the South, because they see that, well, for us, there's career opportunities here, and you don't have to go out, but it is that work piece while you're learning. So it's the working and learning, which to me, that's what we should do through life anyway. We should be working. That's
learning. What I was going to say. Shouldn't that be education writ large?
Yeah.
It's just here we're fulfilling a real need and requirement, and quite honestly, the numbers are staggering in terms of the deficit, in terms of the workforce.
Yeah, and that's what we can't solve all the workforce ourselves. And so that's what was cool about the school also, is it has a dual mission. In the opening sentence of the legislation in the code, it says, create a school and help replicate this across the state of Alabama.
Which is awesome. And I think it's fair to say Governor Ivey deserves a lot of credit as well, largely because she was informed by very thoughtful people to drive some of this. What does success look like from your perspective?
From my perspective, I would say success will be ultimately determined by our students and their success out in life, and getting these exposures to corporate America and then the internships is certainly beneficial to the workforce, and because they need to move on to become productive, contributing citizens. But it also is something, Frank, I think for me, that they are continually challenged. I see too many children today just coasting through. We're talking about bright kids, the smart kids.
Absolutely.
They're coasting through high school, not really challenged, looking forward to college. They've got this, so to speak, and there's this air of, just going through the motions. Well, what Mr. Massey and his team have been able to bring to bear, as I witness it, is a continual school of challenge and pushing these kids to borrow.
Well, they can be.
I was going to say I wasn't going to go there, but thank you. But they are, and to like the what'd you call it? The closing, the capstone. That that they've got to build something. They've got to understand how to work with a team, and then incorporating the cyber and the engineering throughout the curriculum is certainly helpful to just. It's kind of like building muscles, just make them stronger and stronger mentally, again, as opposed to just going through the motions. And I would say one of the surprises we've had, at least on the board, at the board level, is noticing the diversity of interest that the students have. And by that, I mean, I and some of us prejudiced our students in that we thought they would, on a Saturday night, they'd want to be sitting around doing gaming, playing video games, and not care much about athletics. How wrong we were. Our students are also interested in drama and other aspects that are not just cerebral or deal with cyber.
Mm-hmm.
And that's been good to see them kind of develop in these other areas and these other interests. And thanks to Mr. Massey and team, they've been able to accommodate. And we've started a basketball team. We've started a tennis team. We started soccer team thing, for our students. And they're doing okay, I guess, athletically, are they not? For on our third graduating class, and we're, the new one, it's very difficult to organize a team and get a winning team right out of the gate.
Absolutely,
but they're coming together and doing okay.
Yeah, I was talking yesterday with our volleyball coach because the struggle is like we have over 30 girls on the team, and she doesn't want to cut anybody.
Wow.
They end up finishing second in the area this year, but it's hard to run a practice with that many. But We want our students to have that experience outside of the classroom.
The best of everything.
Yeah.
So
we have a club time. All of our students have to participate in a club or a sport. So our archery program has over 60 kids that participate in archery, and we've got a great instructor, and they love it. And they're competitive at a state level. So whether it's that drama or a service club or even the athletics piece of it is, and it's hard when you don't have any facilities on campus. We're remedying that now with that, but we are busing kids to practice, and we got to bring them back for supper because they're living with us on campus and then playing. I think our basketball team had 4 different gyms where we played home games this year.
Wow.
Wow. And so ironically, our senior night for basketball was back where we started at Oakwood University. So while we were building a new state-of-the-art campus, we were at Oakwood University, which is a HBCU. In North Huntsville, and was an incredible partner. Something about being in that HBCU campus, it allowed us to build trust in that African American community. Almost 40% of our students are Black,
wow.
and we've got 40% of color. But it's also in the South, a lot of times that minority group of African Americans in that STEM field is just those doors don't quite open as easily. And so it allowed us to build faith in that community. And now we're, it is awesome seeing, the diversity of our students and where they come from geographically across the state, but also in different communities flourish.
And some students are going right to work, right, after they graduate. So, I mean, obviously we are seeing some go to the best universities and colleges in the country, but some are going right to work.
They are. Yeah, we've got students that have our 2 graduating classes, and the first one was 17 students, the last one was 65, and we'll start graduating about 90 a year now. But we've got students at Georgetown, at Tufts, at Harvard that are there and enrolled. But also we got some that are going straight to a career now, and then some are doing the hybrid role. They're working while they're in school, and we're trying to help them kind of navigate that. Like, don't, in the first year, maybe it's do your work during the Christmas break or spring break. They'll come back and work on site, and they'll work remotely wherever they're in college at. And so we try to kind of help, kind of set that up as a graduate of how does it look like to have that work education kind of balance with it,
which I think is essential in today's environment. And the way you go about educating reminds me a lot of what you normally see at executive sorts of programs, which is all about what are the real needs. Because often by the time you are hired, you have to be retrained. In this case, it's not even the retraining, it's actually shaping what those requirements are, which I think is pretty cool and pretty innovative and quite honestly having impact. Growth. What does tomorrow look like? How do we see? And we'll start with you, Senator Orr, and then Matt, to translate those nouns into verbs. How do you get it done? So,
well, we do want to grow the school, as Mr. Massey said. We've kind of got our sights on a 90 to 100 person school for the foreseeable future. We could go up as far as 600 or so.
Wow.
You get at a level that it's not manageable, and the quality, we don't want to compromise that.
Yeah.
So we want to be here as a resource for the state, but because right now we're turning away a lot of very gifted students because we don't have the places for them. We just don't have the capacity. But we've, as Mr. Massey said, we're building an athletic gymnasium and stage area for productions, theatrical productions and events and things like that. And then, next we want to build another dormitory and research center, and that's next on the agenda. And so I'm interested to get us to that 400 student level and kind of catch our breath, see how all is going, and get some construction done that we need to get done,
and recalibrate,
and then look and see if we want to press on to the 600 student level.
Awesome.
But the demand is certainly out there, and the interest and the quality is there, and we're learning as we go, but we're certainly doing it based on all feedback I hear, an excellent job.
And Matt, before you jump in, also I find very unique, maybe it's just unique to me, but the foundation and the role that the public-private partnership, which we all talk about, but the reality is it's happening. That's kind of unique, I think, for the school itself, is it not?
Yes.
I mean, Huntsville is it's a vibrant community.
Right.
And the demand is blatant.
We've, without our foundation, we couldn't be where we are today, and they have raised millions of dollars to help support the school and support with the building programs, to support other interests and pursuits of the school, and where the state dollars it would take a long time, or we would be having to finance. But the foundation's been a godsend, but for that partnership, as you mentioned, Frank, we wouldn't be where we are.
Yeah. Matt, what is the success?
Yeah, I would say that the funding piece and partnerships have come from a national level as well. I mean, they touch Huntsville and touch Alabama, but it's all the big. They see the national mission that we have, and so for the growth, it is we want to grow in a very strategic and smart way. We're only in our 5th school year ever. We've got 360 plus students right now. We'll be right at that 400 number. Next school year. Applications are increasing by about 35-40% every year. We've got more applications. The residential, I've grown up in public schools and feel like I can organize and run a school. The boarding piece was terrifying to come in, so we studied a lot of
probably still is, right? You got to knock a little bit of wood.
Yeah, but we got over 100 teenagers living with us every night, and it's like, how much supervision do they need? At first we was like, okay, we'll have teachers that will live in the dorm, but that's almost like working double shift for teachers. So we kind of shifted to a second shift crew of folks, and then we ended up, what's the right number of adults to kids? We really wanted do you have RAs that are kind of college students that are 22 years old supervising these 16, 17-year-olds? We end up shifting to more family type of thing. So we have families that live in our dorms and dogs and those kind of things. We want that.
Life's always better with dogs.
Yeah, because it's not exactly normal to move away from your parents at 14 or 15 to go to. So you have to just kind of embrace that and go we're going to just make this as family oriented as possible. We're very honest with our parents about that. What we kind of learned is some kids will never go home. They'll stay there the whole year. So we'll close one weekend a month and send kids home on the 3-day weekends. And we had to develop transportation for that. So we, from the north end of the state, the south end's 300 plus miles. So we run buses, 3 different buses, and take kids home. And that lets us recruit more as well. When those parents know, hey, I'm going to see my kids 3-4 days at least once a month. And so those kind of things we've learned as we go, but you got to be nimble. We've had the financial support from the state to be able to do those things. And so that, because if kids don't feel safe and loved and have good food, the learning part's not going to happen.
Too. Yeah. And we've only got time for a couple more questions, but I would ask there's some talk about a research center as well. Anything you want to share on that?
Yeah, that's we've been, from the early on, we get approached, whether it's from universities or our companies or federal partners, or, hey, what can we do to help you? And we've kind of tagged along on whether it's grants or almost kind of like, hey, there's a research type of thing this university's working with, and we kind of tag on the back of that. And what this research center is going to allow us to do is kind of be a little more in the I would say, in the driver's seat of getting to pick items that fit within the mission and effort and what we can sustain with our capacity with that. So we can be a little more targeted and picky, and we can maybe choose, the partnerships rather than get kind of invited on the back end. So we've got some cool opportunities that we're doing now, but it's kind of like as everybody loves the idea of like working with younger and getting talent pool, and we've kind of have that right structure for that. And so now we're going to kind of be a little bit more strategic about what we can pick on that. So we'll be establishing that research center soon, and kind of work that in house with our current folks. Maybe adding on another couple as we grow slow and strategically with that. But that's going to be even more, more opportunities that will, and this is the point of this, is to benefit our students
and also benefit the country. Because in Huntsville, you have FBI, you have Space and Missile Defense Command, you have a huge constituency that is in need of a great workforce, and I think y'all can help establish that. I'm going to ask this question to both of you, and it's always my closing. What questions didn't I ask that I should have? And start with you, Senator.
Well, Matt, I'm going to have to ask you, what were the interns? I recall they're making as an intern in high school. What kind of money were they making?
Yeah, so we actually ask that our interns not be paid, and some companies have policies where they have to pay their interns, so they contribute to a scholarship fund.
Okay.
So some would get that, but if they do get paid, you can pay them in the summer, which we help kind of bridge that, but we don't supervise, because this is like a class, a college, or not a college. This is a class that they have to take for us. It's a graduation requirement, and honestly, the idea, if you're paying somebody and hey, we're paying this kid and they're not getting it done, we're on fire. It was kind of a little bit of like, we didn't want to have that extra string attached, but it is so they show up and they have breakfast with us. We check in, and then they go to work from like 9 to 1:30 to 2 o'clock. And we have internship supervisors, and they're seeing every kid at least once a week. Wow. So we have about a half dozen folks that are going out and checking on these kids
for the summer jobs. Then what were some of those kids make? I'm thinking,
back
when I was mowing lawns and driving a truck.
And some just want to get plugged in, but it's
and shoveling snow this year, right? So,
the $20-$30 an hour type of work. Boom. So
for a 17-year-old.
No joke, exactly.
It's something. Now, I guess Frank, my closing. You touched on it, but I think our best days are ahead. We are a startup on our third graduating class. We've learned a lot. The board's committed. The state's committed. Again, we want this school not to just settle on its laurels and think, we've arrived. But we're far from that, and we want to really be a large contributor to the need that our country sees in the private sector, but also in the world of cybersecurity and national defense, and contribute back to the needs of this great country that we live in.
Dare I say, I think you've already achieved that shining light. We just need more people to see that light on the hill. But Matt, what questions didn't I ask that I should have?
I don't know. I think we covered a lot of the topics from the growth, but the visioning part, is what's to come. And, how big does the school get? What's the national reach and the national partnerships that we have? And so as we get more on that radar of, whether it's folks from the White House, the Pentagon, to international, that global stage, as we're, the European Union has reached out and kind of wants to see what we're doing. Is that in our scope? So as we develop a new strategic plan, or we're renewing that, it is those opportunities, and the nation, the world is hungry for solutions. This is is the opportunity there is the iron is hot.
And you're marrying the think to the do. And let me just close, and not to tie it back to national security, but since the end of the Cold War, threat forecasting has made astrology look respectable. But I am telling you, cyber is going to be at the very top of the list. touches everything we do. And I want to thank you both for leading in the great state of Alabama, and appreciate all your hard work. So thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you, Frank.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Thank you for joining us for this episode of Cyber Focus. If you liked what you heard, please consider subscribing. Your ratings and reviews help us reach more listeners. Drop us a line if you have any ideas in terms of topics, themes, or individuals you'd like for us to host. Until next time, stay safe, stay informed, and stay curious.